Welcome to the Missions Connect Deep Dive. If you're joining us today, you already know our defining mission.
Blessing the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience.
Exactly. We are so glad you're at the table with us today.
Yeah, it's a real privilege to be here. We have some incredibly vital ground to cover as we look at the source material for this week.
We really do.
Yeah.
But I want to set the stage for you, the listener, right out of the gate. This specific deep dive is a specialized tool. It's custom tailored for you.
Right.
Our goal today is to really prepare your mind and your heart for the upcoming content in the Missions Connect app, which, as a reminder, is a ministry of assisting2obey.com.
Yeah.
We're looking specifically ahead to week 11, so that runs from March 9th through the 15th, 2026.
And when we look at the stack of sources on the table today, we are working from the comprehensive preview document for week 11.
Which is pretty dense.
It is. It's incredibly detailed. And this material aligns directly with the 30 Days of Prayer for the Muslim World initiative. So we're going to extract the most critical insights to help you engage with it on a much deeper level.
Before we even get into the specific regions we're focusing on this week, though, we really need to look at the timing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the timing of week 11 changes the entire complexion of what you're praying for.
The timing context here is crucial. This specific week coincides with the final, most intense days of Ramadan in 2026.
Right.
And it leads directly up to Laylat al-Qadr, which is known as the Night of Power. That's expected to fall right at the end of our week, March 15th through the 16th.
So what does that actually mean for someone using the app, like as they're preparing to intercede?
Well, it means you're stepping into the holiest stretch of the Islamic year. You know the mechanics of Ramadan. But sociologically and psychologically, these final 10 days are an entirely different environment.
Because they're exhausted.
Exactly. You have millions of people who are physically drained from weeks of fasting, yet they are engaged in this heightened devotion.
Right.
They're seeking God with incredible intensity. They are desperate for a breakthrough or a revelation. And because of that posture of profound spiritual vulnerability, this window of time is considered incredibly strategic for global intercessors.
You're praying for people precisely when they're most actively asking the divine to speak to them.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this and dive into our first major focus for the week. We are heading to West Africa, specifically the Mampruzi people of northeast Ghana.
Yes.
And the history here is fascinating. This is an ancient kingdom tracing its royal lineage way back to the 13th century. They have a current population of approximately 434,000.
And their religious landscape is really complex. They practice a very deep syncretism that is just seamlessly woven into their daily lives.
Yeah, you see that blending everywhere in their communities. It's this mixture of folk, Islam, and ancestral spirit worship.
Right.
So you have a community that will faithfully observe the fasting and prayers of Ramadan. But right next door, literally in the same community, they're maintaining traditional shrines dedicated to the dead.
Which brings us to what the source material actually calls the Mampruzi paradox. This is where we need to look at the critical tension on the ground.
Yeah.
The Mampruzi actually have the New Testament translated into their heart language.
Which is Mampruli.
Right, Mampruli. And they have audio scriptures available. They even have the Jesus film translated and ready to go.
Wow.
All the foundational tools for gospel outreach are sitting right there. And yet they remain largely unreached.
When I was reading the source on the Mampruzi, what struck me about this paradox is the cultural web they're caught in.
Yes.
Because they have the tools. But the cultural belonging deeply weaves Islamic identity and ancestral worship together.
Exactly.
To step away from that isn't just a theological shift. It's seen as literally walking away from your family, your ancestors, and your entire community.
That is the core of the paradox right there.
Mm.
The tools for the harvest are completely ready, but the pioneer workers, the people willing to actually move into Mamprugu, build that trust, and navigate that really complex cultural web, are missing.
Yeah, the source specifically notes that 9 pioneer workers are needed to carry these tools forward.
Right.
There's some clear signs of strategy and hope in the region, though, which is encouraging. The sources highlight an organization called One Way Africa.
I love their approach.
It's so cool. They use motorcycle missionary teams to reach these remote areas in northern Ghana. And since 2012, they've seen over 45,000 conversions and planted 280 churches across unreached peoples in that region.
That strategy is brilliant because it addresses a key cultural dynamic. The strategic role of the Mampruzi chiefs and elders.
Right, they're the gatekeepers.
Exactly. They act as the gatekeepers to their villages. A motorcycle team can't just roll in and start a gathering. If the chief closes the village, it stays closed.
Right.
But if God opens the heart of an elder, suddenly the entire community has access to those audio Bibles and the Jesus film.
To connect this directly to your prayer time this week, you'll actually see this come to life in Tuesday's devotional in the Missions Connect app.
Yes.
You're going to read the story of Salisu. He's a Memprusi man who finally found a peace in Jesus that his traditional Islamic and ancestral practices just couldn't provide.
Just huge.
If you think about the sheer exhaustion of trying to appease the ancestors at the shrine while simultaneously keeping the strict rules of folk Islam, Salisu stepping off that treadmill into the grace of Jesus is a profound paradigm shift.
It really puts a human face on that population of 434,000. And to anchor your intercession for the Memprusi this week, keep this key verse in mind. It's Psalm 98, verse 2.
Okay.
The Lord has made his salvation known and revealed his righteousness to the nations. That is the exact breakthrough we are looking for in Northeast Ghana.
Now, abruptly shifting geography here. That dynamic of hidden faith and overcoming cultural barriers we see in Ghana is actually playing out under even more severe conditions right now in Central Asia.
Yes, it is.
Let's look at what's happening in Tajikistan. The briefing notes a startling statistic. Tajikistan has jumped 12 places on the 2026 Open Doors World Watch List in a single year.
Wow.
Yeah, they're now ranked 27th.
That kind of jump on the World Watch List is a massive red flag.
It really is.
It indicates a rapid systemic deterioration of religious freedom. The reality on the ground there is incredibly grim right now. You have a population that is 96% Muslim. And within that, there's a tiny, highly vulnerable community of about 3,000 Muslim background believers.
And the government, President Imamali Ramon's regime, is actively, systematically dismantling Protestant Christianity.
Yes.
The sources outline how they're raiding churches, confiscating Bibles, increasing surveillance. And interestingly, the regime largely ignores the Russian Orthodox Church.
Right.
They're focusing almost all their pressure on indigenous believers and Protestant groups.
The human cost of this targeted pressure is just staggering.
The briefing shares this deeply sobering story of a man named Bahram. He was imprisoned for 8 years.
8 years.
8 years. And his crime was simply possessing more than 20 Bibles.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah. You look around an average American home, you might see half a dozen Bibles just sitting on shelves. Bahram lost 8 years of his life for having 20 copies of the scriptures.
And having 20 Bibles in a country with only 3,000 believers implies he wasn't just hoarding them, he was likely a critical distributor supplying the underground church.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here, and obviously terrifying from a human rights perspective, is the demographic reason behind why the government is accelerating this crackdown right now.
Right, the youth.
Yes, an estimated 50% of the underground church in Tajikistan is made up of young people.
So the regime looks at that and sees a movement that is capturing the next generation.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This explains why they are passing devastating new laws that specifically criminalize the religious education of children.
Wow.
They're trying to cut the movement off at the roots. And if that wasn't enough pressure, the underground church is also trying to support Afghan Christian refugees who have fled across the border.
And those refugees are now facing the severe threat of being deported from Tajikistan right back into the hands of the Taliban.
It's a true pressure cooker.
When you open the app to Monday's devotional, you'll read the story of Mari, which highlights how God operates even inside this pressure cooker.
Such a good story.
It's an amazing testimony of how a single book managed to completely change a remote mountain village in Tajikistan. Think about the logistics of that in a surveillance state. A banned book has to be hidden, passed hand to hand, read in absolute secret, and yet it becomes a catalyst for an entire community.
When you're praying for Mari, and for those 3,000 believers facing such intense heat, the anchoring verse for the week is Psalm 23, verse 4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. These believers are walking through a very dark valley right now. They need to experience God's active comfort.
Let's move from the systemic, state-sponsored pressure of Tajikistan to a region where the surveillance and the pressure come directly from your own family and tribe.
Yes.
For our third major focus for Week 11, we are looking at the Pashtuns. They're concentrated mostly in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Baluchistan provinces, as well as across the border in Afghanistan.
To understand the Pashtuns, you really have to understand their social structure.
Right.
This is the largest Muslim tribal society in the world. They are 99.9% Muslim, and they are bound together by an ancient, incredibly strict code of honor known as the Pashtunwali.
So for a Pashtun, leaving Islam is not just a change of theology.
Not at all.
It's viewed as a complete break from your tribal identity. It brings intense shame upon your family honor, because faith, family, and tribal loyalty are entirely fused together under that Pashtunwali code. Choosing Christ often means losing absolutely everything.
It makes it one of the most complex and dangerous environments on earth to explore a different faith.
And it puts things into perspective when you realize that missionary efforts among the Pashtuns actually date all the way back to 1818.
Which is mind-blowing.
It is. That's when William Carey first translated portions of the Old Testament into the Pashto language. Over 170 years of history, of translating, of praying, and yet today, there is still no self-sustaining indigenous church movement.
Yeah.
The preview document points out that the Pashtun clan, for example, has zero known Christian presence.
This raises an important question. How do you minister in an environment that is so historically resistant and actively dangerous? Because of Pakistan's devastating blasphemy laws, traditional physical missionary witness is incredibly perilous. Just a mere accusation of blasphemy can lead to mob violence or the death penalty.
Yes, and that is where modern tactics and organizations like Mountain Springs Ministries come in.
Yeah, I love what they're doing.
And they were actually founded by Pashtun believers themselves. They describe their own people as the most unreached, resistant people group on the face of the earth. So they rely heavily on Pashto language radio broadcasts, audio scriptures, and digital outreach.
Because that bypasses the village gatekeepers.
Exactly. It reaches right behind closed doors into the privacy of someone's home where they can listen safely.
It allows the seed to be planted without immediately triggering that tribal honor code.
In Wednesday's devotional, you'll preview the story of Omid. He's a Pashtun believer who is living out a silent but incredibly powerful witness in his village.
The psychological weight of that is immense.
You can't even bow your head to pray before a meal without raising suspicion. You have to participate in the cultural life of the village while holding this massive secret from the people you love most.
It's a heavy burden to carry alone. The key verse to ground your prayers for the Pashtuns is Genesis 18, verse 14. Is anything too hard for the Lord?
Wow.
When you look at 170 years of resistance and the seemingly impenetrable wall of the Pashtunwali code, you just have to lean on that promise. Nothing is too hard.
Now, I want to zoom out and look at the broader picture of the week. We mentioned this at the top of the show, but all of this, the Mamproozi, Tajikistan, the Pashtuns, is culminating during Laylat al-Qadr.
The Night of Power.
Right, which we expect on March 15th to the 16th.
This is truly the single most strategic prayer moment of the entire year. During the Night of Power, Muslims believe that God's mercy and blessings are abundant, and they are actively asking for revelation.
And God meets them in that seeking.
Yes. Missionaries across the globe consistently report that more Muslims encounter Christ during these final nights of Ramadan than at any other time. And it often happens through supernatural encounters, specifically through dreams and visions of Jesus.
The Missions Connect app is going to take you on a global journey to show you exactly how God is moving in these different contexts.
Yeah.
We've talked about Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But the rest of the week weaves this incredible tapestry of testimony.
It really does.
On Thursday, you'll pray for Hussein in South Sudan.
Oh, his story.
Yes, let's really think about his journey.
Right.
From being a refugee displaced by conflict, to encountering Christ, to now shepherding a house church among his people.
It shows how displacement can actually become a catalyst for the gospel.
Then on Friday, it's Shireen in Gaza. When I read her story in the sources, it honestly stopped me in my tracks. To have the opportunity to flee a war zone, but to consciously choose to stay because your community needs the light of Christ. When everyone else's survival instinct says flee, the Holy Spirit gave her the supernatural peace to stay and be the light.
That requires a level of faith that is truly humbling to witness.
On Saturday, you'll read about Yasin, who is witnessing online in Somalia. He knows the severe risks involved with his digital footprint, but he's using the internet to reach people who would otherwise be entirely cut off.
Right.
And then on Sunday, you'll meet Ibrahima, who became a fisher of men among his own people in Mali.
To help you visualize the kind of breakthrough you are praying for across all these regions, the Week 11 preview highlights a featured resource.
Yes, I wanted to make sure we mentioned this.
It's a documentary called Sheep Among Wolves, Volume 2. It's produced by Frontier Alliance International, and you can easily find it on YouTube.
I highly recommend making time to watch this.
It is essential viewing for anyone passionate about global missions. The documentary focuses on Iran, but it serves as a visual proof of concept for your prayers this week.
Right.
It documents this explosive, unstoppable, spirit-directed underground church movement. It's spreading rapidly through ordinary believers. They have no physical church buildings, no paid pastors, and no outside missionaries.
It's a totally decentralized movement that no government surveillance can stop.
Exactly. And the point is this. What God is doing right now in Iran, he can absolutely do among the Mampruzi in Ghana. He can do it in the pressure cooker of Tajikistan, and he can do it among the tribal Pashtuns.
So what does this all mean for you as you prepare for week 11?
It brings us to the core mission of this entire endeavor. The 2026 theme for the 30 Days of Prayer is being co-laborers with God.
Yeah.
That comes from 1 Corinthians 3, verse 9. The vital takeaway here is that you are not just an informed observer listening to interesting statistics. By engaging with this material, you are a partner. You are actively standing in the gap during the Islamic calendar's holiest and most strategic week.
Which brings us to the practical challenge for the week. We are asking you, can you pray for just 15 minutes each day? That breaks down to just 5 minutes per focus area.
Right.
Or, alternatively, if you are short on time, you can join the pre-recorded 5-minute prayer of the day inside the app, which beautifully covers all the focuses. Just 5 to 15 minutes of your day can make an eternal impact.
I want to leave you with a final thought to really mull over as you prepare your heart for this week.
Okay.
Think about the 170 years of prayers for the Pashtuns. Prayers don't expire. They accumulate.
Oh, wow.
What if 170 years of seemingly unanswered prayers are actually stored up in heaven, bringing the soil to the exact point of saturation?
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
What if your 15 minutes of intercession this week is the final drop that breaks open the harvest?
That is an incredibly provocative final thought to carry with us. To jump into this journey right now and get access to all these devotionals, make sure you download the web-based app. You can do this easily by clicking the link in the description of this deep dive, or simply by visiting assistingtoobey.com. Thank you so much for joining us, for being co-laborers, and for standing in the gap. We will see you next time.
So, you want a faith that actually matters, right? You want to make a difference in the world, to see the gospel changing lives. To know that your walk with God and His Word is impacting more than just your own life. Yeah, you want your life to count for the nations. But here's the thing. You're busy, maybe overwhelmed. You're pulled in 20 different directions. And even though you want to engage in missions and the Great Commission, you don't always know what to pray for, what's happening globally, or what your next step should be. The desire to obey is there, but the pathway isn't always clear. Let the Missions Connect app show you the way. Every day, you'll get a missions-focused devotional with a simple, practical action step and an option to share with the Missions Connect community. Every week, you get 3 strategic prayer focuses with fresh daily text and audio prayers, so you're never guessing about what to pray for. And when you're ready, you'll find opportunities to actually get involved in God's global work. Everything in the devotional and prayer section is free forever, but we offer you the opportunity to try the premium version for 15 days. You want to impact the nations with the gospel? With Missions Connect, now you can. Missions Connect, helping you bless the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience. A ministry of assistingtoobey.com.